Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Going to be talking about a subject I love today, the Intellivision Amico, so I'm super pumped. Welcome to another episode of Tales from a Retro Gamer. Now, the Intellivision Amico, as many of you know, is sort of an updated, reimagining version of the old Intellivision console that a lot of us grew up playing, back in the early 80s. Fantastic system, and a lot of us are really excited about the Amico. I want to talk about 10 games that you should play between now and then. October is several months away, and it seems like an eternity because we're all excited for the Amico, but I want to give you some things to do while you're waiting, just to sort of get you ready to play the console, get you excited about it, and just sort of get you some kind of background with the Intellivision. 10 Intellivision games to pass the time while you wait for the Amico. Number 10, Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack. Now this was the game that was the original pack-in title with the Intellivision. The Intellivision was marketed as like a more sophisticated console compared to the Atari 2600 with, maybe more for older gamers, more sophisticated, not so kiddie and all that kind of thing, better graphics. And Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack was kind of an interesting choice for a pack-in title. And you should play it because Tommy's talked about Texas Hold'em and other card games and gambling games and that kind of thing being on the Amico. And what better way to get some background in the Intellivision and to sort of get you prepared for the Amico than to play the original pack-in game, Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack. Number 9, Brickout. This is sort of a Breakout clone, and you can play it on the Intellivision Flashback. Now, my Flashback has the limited edition autographed sleeve with the late, great Keith Robinson's signature on the back. And he's one of the old Blue Sky Rangers, and he took over Intellivision in the 90s and was original programmer for the console. And so I'm very proud of this. But you can play Brickout on this, or you can buy Brickout from Atari Age, just like a boxed version for your Intellivision. This was a game that was originally supposed to release back in the day, but it got canceled. And this will get you ready to play Breakout. The Amico is going to have a licensed version of Breakout, the classic, ball and paddle game that in 1976, I discovered Breakout in the arcades and was just blown away. And that was the game that really got me thinking, maybe I like video games even more than pinball. So Breakout is a fun game for the Intellivision, and it will help you get ready to play Breakout on the Amico. Kind of give you some, warm up with that type of game. And then number 8 is Space Patrol. That's a homebrew game, and it's a Moon Patrol sort of clone, but with different planets. And so Moon Patrol is going to be a preloaded game. That's the classic side-scrolling shooter where you drive, a moon buggy along the ground, and you shoot upward and straight ahead. And Space Patrol is just a phenomenal version of Moon Patrol. It is a little pricey because it's a homebrew game, but shop around, you can find it. But it's just a fantastic version of Moon Patrol. It's excellent. Not only you're on the moon, but you're also on some planets, and it's just a fantastic game. Love me some Space Patrol, but it'll get your fingers ready, to transfer that over to playing Moon Patrol, a preloaded game. Moon Patrol is going to ship with the Amico as a preloaded game, so you definitely want to play some Space Patrol. Number 7, World Championship Baseball. For the Intellivision. Now, this is a tough game to find, so you might want to play Major League Baseball. That's a much more popular game for the Intellivision. That's an iconic game for the Intellivision. So whether you go with World Championship Baseball or Major League Baseball, you're good to go, just because it's such an iconic game for the Intellivision. Now, there hasn't been a ton of talk. I know there's going to be a lot of sports games on the Amico. There hasn't been a lot of information on that yet, but you definitely want to play some Major League Baseball or World Championship Baseball. One thing that World Championship Baseball adds, it's not licensed from the major leagues. It was a later release, but it adds a one-player mode. A lot of early Intellivision games were two-player only, and it adds a one-player mode. It adds fly balls, and you can overrun bases. The one thing, though, is World Championship Baseball does crash sometimes. So with that and the rarity of it, you might want to stick with Major League Baseball. Just be sure and have a friend to play. Number 6, my favorite Intellivision game of all time, Beauty and the Beast. I've talked about this game before. It's kind of similar to Donkey Kong and Popeye, those kind of old school climbing games I love so much. One thing I love about Beauty and the Beast is when you're climbing the building, these hearts come down, and you can grab these to become invincible for a few seconds. And just when you grab the hearts, and at what point you grab them, and how you use those to climb up the building to be invincible, to get past the obstacles and everything to the top, is a big strategy of that. That's just a fantastic aspect of that game. Kind of like when the hearts come down on Popeye and you gather those, that's cool, and you're supposed to grab a certain amount of hearts in Popeye, but with Beauty and the Beast, you don't have to grab a bunch of hearts, but it has a great strategy element in the fact that when you grab those, you're invincible and can just go right up the building. Love that. And Tommy Tallarico, the head of the Intellivision Amico project, he has talked about Beauty and the Beast being reimagined and remade for the Amico, so you definitely want to play some Beauty and the Beast. Not to mention that it's my favorite Intellivision game of all time. Now, number 5 in games that you want to play for your Intellivision before the Amico comes out is Utopia. Now, this was the world's first real-time strategy game for a home console, and ironically, it was kind of, the Amico's been touted as, a game system to bring back, simplicity in gaming. The original Intellivision was a pretty complex system compared to the 2600, 17 buttons and everything. But anyway, the Amico will have some complicated games, and Tommy's talked about that some, and they are going to remake Utopia for the Amico, and you definitely want to play some Utopia on your original Intellivision before the Amico comes out, just to get some history on real-time strategy games, and just, again, to play an iconic, Intellivision game, and to figure out, you might have seen the Intellivision T-shirts with Rebel on the cover or on the front, and that's a character in Utopia, so you can at least find that out, where that Rebel name comes from. Number 4, auto racing. It's a top-down racer, and it gives you 5 courses and 5 cars, which is pretty unusual back then for the early 80s to get those kinds of options. It's a cool game, and the controls weren't the best for the original Intellivision version, but you might want to play it just to compare and contrast it to the new version that's coming out. I'm sure you guys have seen it in the Amico trailer. A lot of you auto racing the new version, and hopefully, I'm sure it should have better controls than the original Intellivision version. But that'll give you some background on that game. That's a lot of fun, auto racing, despite the, not the greatest controls, but you want to try it out anyway. Number 3, Shark. One of my all-time favorite, probably top 3 or 4 Intellivision games of all time is Shark. Might even be second after Beauty and the Beast. Absolutely love it. It's an action game, and the remade Shark is going to be a preloaded game in the Intellivision Amico, so right out of the box, when you get your Amico in October, you can play the new version of Shark right away. So you're definitely going to want to play the original. It's basically a virtual aquarium. It's a really nice looking game for, early 80s, and you dash around the screen as a fish. You eat bigger fish to grow larger, and that makes you more powerful, and it's just a fantastic game, and indeed does have sharks in the game as well. So you got to love that. Now, there's a PlayStation Home arcade remake of Shark as well that I've actually never played before. I think it was PS3 era is when it came out. It's for the PlayStation Home arcade Shark. Let me know in the comments if you played that version of Shark and it's worth me picking up. Anyway, you definitely want to play some Shark before the Amico comes out. Phenomenal game. Now, number 2 is US Ski Team Skiing, and you ski down a vertically scrolling mountain. There's 15 grades of mountain steepness, 2 courses, downhill and slalom, 6-player alternating. It's a great party game for your Intellivision, and with a lot of options like Intellivision had back, compared to other consoles. Pretty sophisticated game. Now, Atari 2600 games, a lot of them had a multiple option as well, but the Intellivision typically had better graphics for most of their games. So US Ski Team Skiing is a game that the Amico has, that Tommy and the people with the Amico have prominently advertised skiing. So you might want to play some US Ski Team Skiing before the Amico comes out. Now, number 1, a lot of you may have guessed this by now because it's such an iconic Intellivision title. It was the second pack-in game later on with the Intellivision. It is Astro Smash, and a remade version of Astro Smash is going to be preloaded into the Amico console right out of the box, so you definitely want to play the original just to kind of get a heads up on what that game's all about. And it's sort of a great combination between Asteroids and Space Invaders. You fire at big and small rocks and spinners, UFOs, guided missiles. And what's interesting about this game that's different than most slide and shoot games like that, or fixed screen shooters, what they call nowadays, you're not supposed to let objects get past your ship. That can actually reduce your score, which was a really interesting aspect of that game. Now, it was an easy game, and a lot of people, you know, one game can last a very long time in Astro Smash, and the difficulty level will probably be amped up for the Amico, just, you know, so games don't last quite as long. And I'm sure there'll be some really interesting two-player versions of, and you know, maybe four-player versions or whatever of Astro Smash on the Amico, because as you know, with the Amico advertising and, you know, just the whole idea behind the game is couch co-op and getting more, you know, friends and family together to play games at the same time on the same TV, in the same room, on the same couch, or at least close by. And so it should be fantastic to see just Astro Smash with multiplayers and maybe a little harder is just going to be great, I assume. Now, I can't promise any of these games are going to be any good for the Amico because I haven't played them, but I do have high hopes and I'm excited about the console. And the 10 games I've mentioned, I think will really get you ready for the console. Now, tell me in the comments what games should you play? What did I miss? What games should you play leading up to the Amico, and what games are you, you know, you really think would give you a good background in the Intellivision before you play the Amico? Now, I have a Intellivision-related Patreon question this week by Pete Noel, one of my Patreons, or one of my patrons to my Patreon page. Now, if you haven't checked out my Patreon page, I really wish you would give it a shot. I'll put it a link in the video here, and I hope you would check it out because there's digital books and magazines. There's all kinds of cool stuff on there. I show you behind-the-scenes stuff with the books I'm writing, some of my editing tips and tricks, all kinds of cool stuff, behind-the-scenes photos. So Pete Noel asks me, what are the top 5 Intellivision games I would recommend to people who are new to the console? People who had never played the Intellivision before, what games would I recommend? Now, I would recommend various sports games. Everybody knows, you know, the Intellivision was a big sports system, but I'm going to sort of veer off a little bit from that mostly. The 5 I would recommend are, let's see. Also, I'm not going to mention Beauty and the Beast and Tron Deadly Discs. Those are definitely 2 that I would recommend. But I've talked about those 2 games on my channel so much that I don't want to bore you with those 2 games. Those are just, by this point, those are just understood. So 5 games besides those that I would recommend for anyone new to the Intellivision. Demon Attack, the phenomenal shooter, just hardcore, excellent, and much better graphics than the 2600 version. Some people like the 2600 version better, but I love the Intellivision game. I love both, actually. Lock and Chase, which is a fantastic maze game. If you love Pac-Man, you're going to love Lock and Chase. It's a cool arcade port as well. Bump and Jump, another great arcade port for the Intellivision. It's a great top-down racer where you're going up the screen, and not only can you, you know, race and, you know, dodge cars and jump, you know, over obstacles, you can actually jump on other cars and bump them into the sides, which is just awesome. It's a great sort of early combat racer. Fantastic arcade port. Burger Time, another great arcade port for the Intellivision. One of the greatest versions of Burger Time I've ever played for any console or you know, from any era. Just an excellent, excellent version of Burger Time with great controls and 7 screens. And the one sports title I'm picking is PBA Bowling. PBA Bowling is actually my favorite sports title for the Intellivision overall, if you can believe that. You know, with all the great sports games on the Intellivision, you know, NBA basketball, NFL football, Major League Baseball. I like PBA Bowling. There's a lot of strategies. There's a ton of options like handedness, the weight of the ball, and all kind, you know, lane slickness and all kinds of stuff. So I definitely recommend PBA Bowling. Now, I've got an honorable mention for the Intellivision of games you should play, just because, you know, if you've never played it before, just because it's so iconic. B-17 Bomber. Enough said about that game. If you don't know what that is, just Google B-17 Bomber and actually watch it on YouTube to get the voice clips and everything. It's awesome. All right, so Pete Noel, thank you so much for that question. He had another quick question. What do I think of Toys to Life Fad? This includes Skylanders, Disney Infinity, and Lego Dimensions. Now, those are the games that come with the little toys and everything. To be honest, I have never played any of these, and I really don't know much about them. I just know that when I go into somewhere like Movie Trading Company, I see a lot of those toys, and at garage sales, I see them for very cheap. They seem to be sold a lot because especially for the Skylanders, I see a lot of those toys for sale, just, maybe for a couple of bucks a piece, or a whole bunch of them, for a price at a garage sale or whatever. Don't know much about them, but I like the idea of supplementing video games with like tangible objects, especially for kids games, so I'm good with them. So thank you so much, Pete Noble, for that. I've got 2 new Patreons, I've noticed some YouTubers call patrons to your Patreon page Patreons, so I suppose that's, with linguistics, when enough of the population adopts a word and starts using it a certain way, oftentimes it's added to, the dictionary as that word, so I guess you can call Patreons to your Patreon page actual Patreons. Whatever the case, I do have 2 new patrons or Patreons, Robert Lacey and Benjamin Murbach. Very much appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Now, the last episode of Tales from a Retro Gamer I did was about the 2006 San Diego Comic-Con and the incredible experiences I had there, meeting celebrities, getting my first book contract and all that kind of stuff. And Rick Kimsey commented on that video, and he said, I believe I asked you guys if you had been to San Diego Comic-Con before and what that was like. And he said, San Diego is out of my range, so I never went to Comic-Con. However, I did meet Forrest J. Ackerman. That's one of the gentleman that edited and was the primary writer for Famous Monsters of Filmland, co-founded it and all that kind of stuff, in 1984 at Atlanta Fantasy Fair. He was very generous with his time and answered questions about the actors from the Universal Monsters movies. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, leave in the comments, what Intellivision games would you recommend that people play before they get to the Amico? The Amico is coming out in October, and there's a lot of time between now and then. And plus, with the pandemic going on, we've got a lot of us have a lot of time at home. Plenty of time to play Intellivision games. What games do you guys recommend you play between, to all my audience? Recommend some games, guys. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. That's really important. Just below this video and to the right, you can click on that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, thank you so much for watching. Little longer video today, but it's a fun topic that I really love to talk about. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.